Welcome, everyone. I'm Donna Kastner with Age Well Dayton, and I am thrilled to have Julie Brown, financial strategist at McKinley Carter Wealth Services, joining me today. Julie, it's so wonderful. We're going to talk money matters, right?
Perfect. I love it. It's great to be here, Donna.
Let's start. Could you tell us more about your role? What kind of brought you into this, your organization? Kind of give us that big picture overview.
Sure. So specifically, I'm a certified financial planner and acting as a financial strategist with our clients. So my day in, day out work is meeting with clients, talking over what's happening in their lives, how that might impact their financial plan or their portfolio, and just really the nitty gritty of the financial planning work. It's the most satisfying part of what we do. I've been in financial services for close to 17 years now and love actually that there's such a big people component. It's not just spreadsheets and analysis. It really is how do you help people live their best life. So that's what I love doing, and I get to spend all day doing it. And that kind of feeds into our firm at large. McKinley Carter is what's known as a registered investment advisory firm. So we've got lots of the important oversight on our investment program. But what we really do is focus on inspiring people to build a brighter present and future while they earn, save, invest, and contribute to maximize their return on life. I think we'll talk about return on life a little later, but just we really focus on how do we help people just create the best life they can.
Return on life, ROL. I'm jotting that down and I'm going to borrow it someday.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, we tend to think of financial strategists about the spreadsheet and the
Yeah,
strategists and this and that. And we met at Aileron at Founders Day
that's right.
and had a great chat. And candidly, that was my observation on you that you had the command of your field, but there was also a people dynamic within you that is not seen as often, at least in my experiences. I don't want to generalize. And then we caught lunch together, and that conversation continued. And that holistic approach really factoring in, it's not just about the investments and the numbers. There's something broader here. Talk to me more about that.
Absolutely. So, what we recognize is that there is two sides to financial planning. There's the technical side, that is all of that analysis and portfolio building and taking all of the different techniques to layer on not just what your money doing, but how is it protected? How is my estate planned for? How am I thinking about taxes and the impact with movement in my portfolio and my cash flow? All of this technical side that we kind of think of as the science of financial planning. But there's this whole other half that is kind of the art of financial planning, which is the human side, and recognizing that people have different ways that they think and interact with money in their life, different feelings about it, different kind of money stories that your personal history has taught you, this rhetoric that you think about when you think of money, different phases of life. Sometimes you've got a lot of energy to put into your money planning, and sometimes you really don't. So there's a lot of ebb and flow with how you help humans apply this kind of technical planning side of thinking about your money, and you really can't have one without the other when you're working with people. So our focus is a lot more client centric than just the technical side of it. I'll share with you a document that kind of summarizes the work that we do. You'll see it's quite complex with many layers of services that we apply to our clients. But right at the bullseye of this graphic is the client. And it kind of just, I think, puts a visual image to that idea that the portfolio or performance is not the goal, it's the client. And the client feeling secure in their plan, hopeful about the future, and knowing that they are the priority, that we're coming alongside them as a partner to help them live their best life.
Wonderful. And I do think that this concept of living your best life, I mean, and that life, thanks to the gift of longevity, is likely to run much longer.
Very
And
true.
we're actually designing maybe chapters of that life that will unfold. So that brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
And I am guilty of this myself, but some people think, oh, well, we don't have enough money to bring on a financial advisor. That's for rich people. Um, or it's too soon, retirement's far away. And both of those were in the back of my mind. We checked the default boxes. We were doing, the 401k and what have you, but it was kind of default and just keep rolling and rolling. And I don't think it was until our mid 40s, about 20 years ago, that we realized when we were leaving money on the table and why we're not, we're not the rich, but we're not like there was some opportunities to optimize what we were doing. And we had some regrets like, wow, we should have done this sooner. So speak to that for anyone that's watching this and is maybe thinking those same things.
Absolutely. So I think the first comment I'll make is that we often see it as most beneficial for people to start working with us at a transition point. So very commonly, it's when you start thinking about retirement and you're transitioning from that income you're earning is building your security to how prepared am I for that same level of financial security if I'm not working? And that question is really looming for folks that are facing that transition in their life. Other transitions, though, can create kind of that same money movement. So something like a divorce or losing a spouse. If you sell a business, that often brings in a big influx of money that perhaps you haven't had access to before. And even more wild things like winning the lottery or an unexpected inheritance, those kind of more outlandish things do happen. And those are the moments that it really becomes helpful to have a professional just join you and thinking through. The phrase I like to use is thinking partner, just somebody that can look at the big picture and apply a little bit more experience and expertise and give you that advice that if I were in your shoes, this is what I would do in this scenario. So that change point is really a helpful time to say it might be time to start working with an advisor. And then as far as a certain number, do I have enough money to work with a financial planner? The really neat thing about the way that our industry has evolved is that it's become so much more accessible that it isn't just a for the wealthy type service anymore. There's a broad range available to us now. If you're just interested in doing your investing on your own, there's a lot of tools that can help you do that successfully for many years that perhaps you don't need a partner to kind of look at the big picture. But if you decide, okay, I'm kind of have these questions, I'm not really sure how I want to come up with the big picture, but perhaps your savings isn't quite where you wanted it to be. There's advisors that have lots of different options for each level of your need. So, for instance, in our firm, if we have folks that really don't quite yet need that regular ongoing management of the portfolio, we can do just kind of a project-based consultation. We'll review the whole gamut of what's happening in your financial life, kind of come up with some goals and steps to take, and set you on your merry way for another few years and say, we'll see you again in 5 years. It saves the client a little bit of money to do it that way. You still get the information you need, but you don't need the full complexity of, your advisor ready at the whim if something happens. And I think that's pretty common, to be honest. So there's a lot of services available regardless of how much you have.
And at that earlier point, I think what my husband and I realized, it's almost like a tune-up for your car. It probably would have been good for us to we weren't ongoing, but it would be good for us to do the periodic tune-up to make sure what we were doing was best.
Right, right. Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
So, just as we were getting started, I mentioned to you, I could do a lot of listening and to podcasts. That's a really great learning mechanism for me. And I caught a podcast that 5 signs you should fire your financial advisor. I wonder if I could run each of these by you and get some comments on each one.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. Number one, they always say ask your CPA instead of doing proactive tax planning. What do you think on that one?
That's a fair consideration. If you're a financial advisor isn't thinking about the tax impact as they're trading in your taxable brokerage account or as they're planning distributions from your qualified retirement accounts, both of those have significant impact into your tax return each year. Additionally, there's even further impact if your income is too high, which could be a result of distributions from your qualified account. It can impact your Medicare premiums. It can impact your ability to shift money around or do contributions. There's a lot that taxes play into a holistic financial plan. So if your advisor is only looking at portfolio performance and investments and not thinking about the tax impact, I think you're missing out on the full financial planning picture.
And I can affirm that in that it was those last few years because then my husband and I were staggered. I'm
Yeah.
not retired. I'm still working,
Yeah,
starting to dial it down, but that even required certain strategy and shifting of funds and what have you. So I'm
exactly.
on board with that. Here's number two warning sign. They only talk about investments and ignore taxes, retirement income, insurance, estate planning. I mean, I think that's speaking to your holistic approach.
Absolutely. It goes back to that idea of about a return on life and a holistic plan that considers the way, your insurance is built to protect all the assets you've worked so hard for. Your risk management also includes how you're invested, but it reaches into that insurance realm as well. It's thinking about the tax impact with each movement of your portfolio. It's thinking about your estate legacy plan and how you're protecting that wealth for the next generation or other beneficiaries. It's thinking about the whole picture again and how it works together rather than just what's happening in your portfolio. And to be fair, that's a really common approach. We've seen that over our industry for most of the last, 40 years. This idea of financial planning really didn't start until about the 80s. So it's a newer idea in terms of being an investor that you're looking beyond just how am I invested and how is it performing. But that theme still holds strong. There are many advisors that still make that their priority when there's a whole fullness beyond it that is really most helpful for clients.
Okay, great. Number three, you leave meetings confused. Jargon and complexity replace clear explanations.
I personally have a big beef with this one. I think if you are interacting with any professional that is not meeting you where you're at, giving you confidence to ask questions that you might feel, maybe I should know the answer to this, so I don't want to ask it because I might embarrass myself. If they are using language that you don't understand or trying to elevate their knowledge and experience and making you feel smaller in that meeting, my challenge would be for you to consider another professional. Your advisor, particularly your financial advisor, is a lot, it's a more intimate relationship than many other professionals. You might see your doctor once a year or your attorney once every few years, but your financial advisor you're talking to regularly, you should be, throughout the year. And we tend to know our clients on a much deeper level. We know what's happening in their family. We know what their goals are. We know where they're struggling and what's hard right now, and how the money component of each of those topics in their life, we can help build it out so that it supports what they're going through. And if you don't feel like you can have that level of close conversation with your advisor because they keep a distance in how they interact with you, I would challenge you to consider working with someone else.
Excellent. Number four, and this is one you and I talked about when we met for lunch. Your spouse partner is ignored or left out of meetings and decisions. And I watch this happen time and time again with family and friends where there tends to be one person that's alpha on the investment strategy, and then the other one might not be quite as aware. Tell us, speak to that one.
That's so true. And again, it is very, very common that one person, and it's natural. We all have really busy lives. And as a partnership, you tend to kind of, this is what I take care of, this is what you take care of, and that's how we get it all done. So there's not that there's anything wrong with it, but it does leave that kind of follower or, not the main money person. It leaves them at a disadvantage if the money person, if we lose them unexpectedly, if there is that transition point where perhaps the partnership ends and you find yourself alone, you've had many years where you haven't been involved in thinking about how does money work. So to me as an advisor, I work very hard to pull the non-money person into as many conversations as I can, and try and give those opportunities to ask questions without making them feel small, kind of like we spoke about earlier. and encouraging them to own their money story. Perhaps it's not to the depth that the money person is, but they have a good understanding for yourself. This is what I think about money. This is how I use money or interact with money. We have a tool we call our fiscalosophy, which just helps you think through what's my philosophy on money? What do I think about having debt? What do I think about spending my money and saving my money and investing and just kind of owning, okay, this is my position when it comes to money. This is what I am trying to achieve in my life, what we as a couple or a family are trying to achieve. And here's how money plays into those goals. So, kind of just doing that inward audit that gives you the opportunity to have a little firmer footing on what am I trying to accomplish with my money? And then and understanding where are my gaps? What can I ask questions about? If it's budgeting, if it's investing, if it's, estate planning, whatever it is that you realize, I don't really know a lot about this, being able to inform yourself and ask your advisor those questions in a comfortable manner is a hallmark of a good advisor.
Excellent. And the last one, number 5, you wouldn't rehire them today if you were starting fresh.
I think it's very easy in life to be satisfied with good enough. Again, we're so busy. Turning over the apple cart just because is a really hard decision when you feel like, oh, it's good enough. Even if, to the question's point, I probably wouldn't hire them again. They know me, they've done well enough. We're going to be able to retire. I think taking the evaluation of where you're at in life, if there is one of those transition points coming and this person isn't supporting you in a way that is helping you feel empowered, confident, hopeful, um, truly that thinking partner that I've referenced a few times now, somebody that you can bounce ideas off, somebody that you can collaborate with, it really might be worth turning the apple cart over to get the right person for this stage of your life.
Julie, you've shared a wealth of insights with us, and we've only just kind of scratched the surface. And I hope we can have another conversation in the future. In the meantime, if people listening or watching this want to explore this further, what should they do?
Absolutely. Well, there are so many resources available. It doesn't take a lot to search, just books or websites, webinars. There's so much if you're interested in pursuing more information on your own. Specifically for us, we have a website, mckinleycarter.com. A really easy contact us button is right there on the front page. That's a great place to start if you'd like to continue this conversation further with us.